So let's see how this actually deals with what the current steps are and what is the plan of action that we see with the CMMC, the maturity certification. So a couple of key things here. One is on the visibility side, and the other thing is on the threat management side of things. If you look at it closely, the model states there are 5 main steps that is included in the model, which is assessing. First thing is to assess the network and map it with what existing security controls do we have, what are the procedures that are present, and documenting them. Most importantly, ensuring that we have an updated procedure or a process which has this documented, and what is the plan of action that builds against each of these steps, calculating those scores. So whenever we see an issue or a vulnerability, how much of it is important to us. So there are several models in which we actually perform some of these maturity scoring. Some of them are required by the government agencies to be able to submit the scores, and they range anywhere between a score of 200 to 800. And the higher the score, the better the maturity is for the cybersecurity of the overall organization. Now, we saw that in the last 1 year, these results have dipped primarily because of the operational technology infrastructure, which is now integrated with the IT. And that is also bringing in a lot of controls, which is currently mandated, but it does not cover the existing cybersecurity approach that we had for several years in the IT or our traditional infrastructure security space. Then we also need to plan a remediation stage. So it states that you need to have the organizational visibility to be able to take action against whatever documented steps and the scores that has been calculated or computed. Against these scores, we prioritize, basically telling that which are the most critical areas we need to focus on, what are the areas, but having that full 360-degree view of how these issues can occur in my network is the most important topic that we'll cover. And of course, the last stage is the monitor stage. So each of these stages has some key pointers that they talk about. When we see the assess stage, we look at environmental risks, OT and IoT assets being connected, and also classified or controlled unclassified information, which is not required to be which is not required by some of the organizational mandates that the government is requiring in its bid. And this is becoming a gray area. What we are seeing is that while this is unclassified, it requires minimal compliance that should be adhered to. It is still responsible, and it still falls under all the 17 domains that the CMMC talks about, or at least it outlines. In terms of documentation, we're seeing some of the risk findings. What is the security plan, or the system security plan that we call it, and what is the plan of action? Now, it's a very important point here is that when we see this documented steps, this is now being mapped not just with the information that is out there, but also with the data that is coming across the operational technology and some of this critical infrastructure components, which can directly lead to a control breach, and that eventually leads to the company staying non-compliant or losing some of them actually losing the certification that they already have. Once we have that steps, the calculate stage outlines what are the risk score, what is the baseline model, how do we align this with the framework that is best suited for our network, and in the remediation stage, where are we non-compliant, and how do we bring it to a level where we are meeting those compliance? How do we map these controls that we have today with the compliance requirement, be it an asset management, visibility, be it monitoring, remediation, and response? Any of the cyber resiliency process that we take, it is mapping it to a similar compliance. And same thing, what we see is also being directed by standards like NIST and also IEC 62443, which has more or less some overlaps in most of these areas, and they're a lot similar. But it does not stop once we remediate. There is also controls where the companies and organizations have to have continuous monitoring, detection, a robust threat management plan that can cover their entire critical infrastructure, which is being connected to the internet now, along with their IT. And what is the control flow of my unclassified information that I have from these networks, which is flowing through my IT? So with this five-step process, it kind of clearly outlines that where do we start? How is the journey going to look like, especially when we see OT environments that are coming in? And how do we maintain this from a mid to long term strategic purposes?